They're in economic trouble, partly because they don't run their economy very well. But by the mid-90s, you then have a series of natural disasters, floods, etc., that lead to serious famine.
But these tragic conditions do not deter Kim from extravagant spending on his vast military forces.
He starves his people at the expense of providing for his military. 30 to 50% of the North Korean gross domestic product goes to the military.
In 1998, North Korea launched a rocket over Japan. It created a huge outcry, not only because it went over Japan, but because, unbeknownst to our analysts in advance, it turned out to be a three-stage rocket. If that three-stage rocket had been successful, which it was not, it fell into the sea, it very soon could have reached the continental United States.
The White House is stunned. The hope for a peaceful progression in relations has collapsed on both sides.
When North Korea made its nuclear freeze agreement with the U.S. in 1994, we got up front what we wanted. They stopped their nuclear program. It could have made 30 nuclear weapons a year in a very short time if it had not been stopped. So they felt they'd given up quite a lot. They got promises. After this agreement was concluded in 1994, the Republicans take over Congress. Clinton faces real opposition to this agreement he's just concluded. You softy, you've just given away the store to North Korea. So Clinton just didn't carry out most of this agreement. And many people in the Clinton administration thought, well, North Korea will collapse anyway. We don't have to carry it out. In the meanwhile, the military men in North Korea are going to Kim Jong-il and saying, you sucker, you've been conned.
When Kim launches his long-range missile, Clinton is compelled to rethink U.S. policy towards North Korea. Following South Korea's lead of dialogue with the North, in October 2000, the president sends his Secretary of State, Madeleine Albright, to Pyongyang for direct talks with Kim Jong-il.
I went, having been briefed on what kind of a weirdo he was from our own people. He was portrayed as reclusive-like, with many girlfriends and watching porno movies, and basically a very weird kind of person that you had no idea what he was going to be like.
So, do you spend the pleasant time there?
He was actually quite charming. While I knew all the terrible things that he had done, I could at least make the distinction that he wasn't crazy. He was very, very well prepared, responded without notes, was not only respectful, but also interested in what I had to say.
The talks with Secretary Albright lead to a remarkable breakthrough.
Kim Jong-il puts his missile program on the table. He offers to end all exports of ballistic missiles. He offers to freeze the production, deployment, and testing of all ballistic missiles with a range of 300 miles or more.
This was extraordinary. It was indeed a moment of great hope. There was a possibility Kim Jong-il was finally going to enter the community of nations, perhaps hesitantly, but ultimately to really create the final peace and stability that might replace the armistice of 50 years that had been put in place at the end of the Korean War.
It was a hopeful set of cards that we left on the table. I think it was a big surprise to everybody when the Bush administration decided not to pick up that hand of cards.
The newly elected President Bush has grave concerns that Kim Jong-il cannot be trusted.
North Korea is a regime arming with missiles and weapons of mass destruction. States like these and their terrorist allies constitute an axis of evil.
Bush's strong words are met by an increasingly defiant Kim Jong-il. North Korea's seeming determination to become a nuclear power will lead to an ever-escalating confrontation with the United States.